Hello. So of course I wanted to make a feedback, slash retrospective video about Pilgrim's Traverse. Initially I was just gonna do it, like as a standalone video. However, Angelus put out a survey for Pilgrim's Traverse very recently, yesterday I think. And then I thought it would be fun to maybe do my retrospective as I'm filling up the survey. It's also gonna let me you guys show the survey to you so you can maybe fill it out yourself. I would say if you intend to fill up this survey, which will be in the description, please do so before watching the rest of this video. Just so I don't incur bias with my own answers and my own thoughts and opinions. And yes, I very much so encourage you to fill up this because he's going to just... He's trying to get as many answers as possible, and then he's gonna do an overview of it after a month, I think. And this is the kind of survey that you get different questions depending on what you answer, right? So you might not even get the same questions as me. So anyway, let's begin. At the time responding to the survey, did I clear PT? I did. So then we get a set of questions for people who have cleared PT. Did I watch videos, guys, or go blind? So I did go blind. My very first run was a blind paladin, which I did not even use a checkpoint system until it died. I believe it died on 89 to a monster. Then my second, let's say, attempt was a 71-100 checkpoint on Pictomancer. And then my actual clear was a 1-100 summoner. And so that does not apply to me. I did not watch a guide. And I cleared solo. So I guess it took me... I would consider it 2 attempts. I don't really know if I consider the checkpoint like an attempt. It's like 2 or 3 depending on my opinion. In my opinion, I only count the real attempts, the one I start from 1. So for me, it was 2 attempts. First attempt died to just knowledge check on a monster. Though I will say my first attempt had 0 hope of ever beating this place. First of all, because my Aetherpool was too low. And second of all, because the floor 99 boss, I could have never figured it out on the fly. Never. So it was always going to be minimum 2 attempts after seeing that boss. I did duty fail on floor 10, as did so many people. So I guess with that in mind, it's 3 attempts. I did lose my first run to floor 10. If you don't know why so many people die on that boss, it's because it's kind of a DPS check, and so many people went a tank, right, to just disrespect the bosses more. But that kind of was playing against you on this floor because with the low Aetherpool especially, you didn't really have the damage to deal with the ads, and the enrage is unexpected. Like, you don't really expect it the first time. Will I go for another clear? I will, of course, go for more clears. I will say, though, I have no interest in doing regular clears again. Every clear I will do in this place will be a challenge. So, like scoring or just like a straight-up challenge. Don't think it's going to be a very fun place to clear more than once, personally. And this was not my first clear. The difficulty. So I would say it's the easiest clear of all the deep dungeons that we have right now. So out of PTD, F99 and EO, I think it's the easiest one. So the reason I think this is the easiest deep dungeon, so I think the scaling was screwed up like it was in EO, which you could air no end to the complaining about the scaling of EO. Except this time, I don't think you're gonna hear complaining because it's to the player's advantage this time. So for example, in EO, there was this weird thing where like the early game was super tanky, and then you had like a brief moment of respite in the middle, and then things become super tanky again, and then stop becoming tankier in the 60s. Same thing happens in PT, except this time in PT, it's to your advantage, so things are just like really squishy, and then the end game, it's like, it's pretty squishy when you get to 61, but then it remains that squishiness all the way to the end. Which, leads into this funny situation where, because the layouts are much bigger for 6180 than they are in 81-100, you actually are just able to do it faster. That's not even considering the insane rate of silver chests you get in the end game that have an instance in there. And then also 98% of the encounters you get, which honestly might be 100%. I don't even know which exception I would be thinking of there. But almost everything you encounter is just a knowledge check. And then there's not really any RNG. Like if you put me 10 times against the same monster, 10 times in a row, I don't really see myself dying to the monster. To anything. Like, there's not really There's not really a big swing in RNG the same way you'd have in PUTD or Heaven on High. Because, for example, in Heaven on High, even though I know what a Manticore does, I could still kite it and just get like crit really badly, and then it could catch up to me. My kiting doesn't really work, and then it just could blow me up, right? So you're not really gonna find that in PT. I guess the only exception is like the invisible frogs. I could see the invisible frogs kind of like catching you off guard despite you knowing they exist, you knowing, you know, they're there, but I could see the invisible frog really screwing you over. Everything else, I feel like it's just a knowledge check. Which, that's the thing with knowledge check. It's like, yes, it's hard the first time you see it, but then once you know it, there's not like, you can't really unlearn it. Like, yeah, I can just mash my head with a hammer and forget all about the mechanics. So like, once you know them, you know them. And EO had the same problem, by the way. There's a reason that we were saying EO was the easiest deep dungeon too. Which Square Enix doesn't really agree with that statement, but I think general in the deep dungeon circles, that's a pretty reasonable claim. So then, you know, PT is pretty much an easier EO, and EO was already considered easier than F99 Duty, so it's no surprise that it would be considered the easiest deep dungeon. Last thing is, I think the tools we have are too strong for the difficulty. It's like imagine a world of PT without the incense. Like, let's remove every single incense. I still think it would be too easy. But it would be a bit harder, right? But then that's the thing. It's so easy, but then you also have all these crazy things on top of it. The Votives are also insane. Well, maybe not insane, but they don't really have downsides that make it not worth it to go for them. So if you see a Votive, you're gonna run up to it, you're gonna right click it, and you're gonna get some kind of benefit. And then if you get a downside, it's whatever, right? So it's too easy, relies too much on knowledge checks, and then the tools you have are too good for how easy it already is. So overall, I would say the fun I had in PT at 3. So then my reasons for putting 3, I think the first layer was really fun. Probably the most fun first layer I've done, excluding... Well, I don't think the first layer was more fun than M&I or PUTD in my case at least, but it was definitely more fun than EO. Now the downside is I think future clears are not going to be that fun, unless a challenge is applied, so let's say scoring, or let's say, you know, like, I don't know, walking only. But then, even then, it's so easy. I think it's gonna be hard to find a challenge that's fun and hard. So for example, I've been scoring, and then many of us that we're already able to kill every single monster and pop every single lure in that deep dungeon, right? Like, at some point, it's like we don't even have enough monsters to kill. So like, we'll need to have even more things to make it challenging, and that's just scoring. Like, it's a shame. I think it's really just a numbers thing. I will say there are some cool bosses that we're definitely a long way from MLI bosses at this point. There's also cool ideas. The invisible frog, the turtles, the croc that like goes into this huge tank buster phase on his low HP. At the end though, it's a number issue more than anything. The ideas are good though. So like, in my opinion, if EO was a 2, which to me, EO, I think a 2's fair. And if PUTD and MI is a 5, which in my opinion, it's fair. I mean, there's a reason I got into this content so hard at the beginning, right? To me, this feels like a 3. To me, this feels like a slightly better EO, but it's like kind of it's a big gap between PT and the other 2 deep dungeons. And that's, keep in mind, that's including the toolkits, right? So like, I'm saying that, acknowledging the fact I should play PUTD with a level 60 toolkit. So then imagine if you could play PUTD with a level 100 toolkit, you know? Anyway, next question. So what did I think of the adjustments of how we obtain regens and Potsherds? A good change with an asterisk, and I will explain to you why. And then would I like to see it in MI and EO? Again, yes, but with an asterisk. So here's my thoughts about the regen and the Potsherds. If you don't know what we're talking about, by the way, Potsherds is what you get when you open bronze. I think they're called Aether glass, something like that in PT. There's like these, it's like these blue, these blue fragments. And then regen potions is something you can buy from the Potsherds. It's like it's a 30-second regen effect that you can reapply on yourself every 15 seconds. And then the point of these questions specifically is because the regen potions are like, you basically don't have an infinity of them in the other deep dungeons. On POTD you do now, but in EO and MI you don't. So what happens is you do a run, and if you're playing something that needs a lot of those, then you're gonna run out of potions, which means that you now have to like, either you decide to do a job that doesn't need a lot of them, or then you have to farm these potions specifically on a run that's not like a real run, and then you go back to a real run, right? So either way, I never liked the Potsherd and regen potion system. So I think this is better. I think the way it is in PT is better, because in PT you just get way more. Like, that's basically what's different. You just get way more. So now you don't really have to think of your potion usage, because you know you'll have more than you need. So this is, it feels good, but I think it's a band-aid, you know? It's a band-aid that feels good. I don't think it's a really good long-term solution. In my opinion, this should be completely overall. First of all, potions. I think potions don't really have a place. In PUTD, potions were basically added as like a band-aid for people that were trying to solo, but they could not, right? So then they added the potions just to kind of see, like, oh, is that going to help people clear? And then people started solo clearing this place. Then they ported the potions over to Heaven on High. And I think Heaven on High added damage output. Like, the monsters were doing enough damage for it to justify the potion. I still don't think it's a good system, but at least I think they were justified for in Heaven on High. Now, when you released, I always felt like they copied the potion system, but they didn't really, like, they didn't really plan around anything around it. I've done multiple clears in EO where I don't use a regen potion on melees, on caster, on everything. All of these felt pretty smooth. So I've never really felt like the potions had a place in EO, and that's even more true in PT. In PT, it's like, they're good, don't get me wrong, they're good, and I use them on the monsters. There's certainly some monsters where if you just take it and, you know, you just stand there and take it without potion, you die. But it's not really interesting. Like, essentially, it's just a button you're gonna be pressing every 30 seconds, and that's it, right? So like, and then so I guess there's two ways I see this. Well, if they intend for you to use on cooldown, so if that's their intent for you to use on cooldown, because now you get so much, then it might as well be a buff. You know, when you do a duty, you get this Warrior of Light buff that gives you like health regen. They might as well make it a buff then. I mean, if they intend for you to press that button every 30 seconds, might as well be a buff. And then the other side is, if they don't intend for you to use on cooldown, which you could argue that's how it works in Neo. Well, I don't want to go out of my run to farm them, right? That's boring. No one wants to do that. So then in that case, in my opinion, they should just give you a limited ML every set. Like, it should just be that every time you start a set, you get this special action, and it's like 10 potions, and then that's it. Like, you get these 10 potions for your run. That's it. You get no more. But like, at the very least, don't have me farm them out, you know? So then in PT, it's a little bit better, like I said, because in PT, you don't really have to farm them. So it's basically this first part. So the intent for you to use on cooldown, I mean, you know, you don't have to think of farming them, but you still have to press that button all the time, right? And now about the Potsherds. So I've never liked the Potsherd system. I will say I understood people's opinion of it in the other deep dungeons, especially F99 and PUTD. Because the idea in PUTD and F99 was that if you're trying to like get stuff from PUTD, but you don't want to clear it because you can't or you're not interested, well, you got this kind of like you know, you got this kind of like midway system called Potsherds that give you some value of doing the middle floors, and then you can trade that for like rewards. So I get the idea. I never liked it, but I get the idea. Because in my opinion, you should be rewarded by clearing the content, and then you can trade for what you want after you clear the content. So in my opinion, this is even more of a like, it's even more of a weird design decision in PT, because now in PT they had this whole thing where they want to make the deep dungeon accessible to everyone, and, you know, rewarding and clearable by everyone with match parties and whatnot. So then what's really the point of Potsherds? Like, if it's designed for people to be able to clear it easily, I mean, what's the point of Potsherds? I don't really understand the point of it anymore. In my opinion, Potsherds should be nuked, deleted, and they should be just... You should just buy everything they sell with the clearing item. Because when you clear, you get an item, right? I think it's a book in PT, perhaps. But whatever it is. In my opinion, you should just be able to get that clear item and trade it for rewards. I don't think the Potsherds system really makes sense anymore. So what I think of the Aetherpool leveling changes in PT? Okay, there's a big asterisk. I'd say I didn't notice a change. I believe the change is you just get more when you kill bosses. But like there's a big asterisk there. And would I like to see these adjustments? Another big asterisk. So I have a lot to say about Aetherpool. So Aetherpool, in my opinion, needs a complete overhaul. And when I say this, I mean retroactively. Like for literally every deep dungeon, they should overhaul it. So the thing with Aetherpool is that realistically, anyone that wants to clear is gonna cap out their Aetherpool, or they're gonna get it high enough where it's gonna cap during the run, right? Like there's a reason why you never see a guide for deep dungeon that's like get your title from one Aetherpool. Like this. Yes, you could do it as part of a challenge, but then see that's where it gets messed up. Because like, how would you do it if you've never done it? Like, I don't know if that makes sense. Because like, even if I were to trade my own Aetherpool, I couldn't even go back to 1, right? Because it's by a group of 10 Aetherpool. I could only go down to 9. So then, for me to do like a 1 Aetherpool challenge run, I need to have never stepped in or be on the null. Like, it's kind of screwed up, right? Let's be real, no one's really gonna do that. Like, 99 people that go in there, probably 99.9% of people that go in there, they just want to have cap Aetherpool. So that's just like busy work. Like, you're just grinding something, right? That if you don't care about the weapons like me, that something is never go down. You never drop it after that. I've never traded my Aetherpool for anything in any deep dungeon. So that number for me is relevant for like a day, and then it's not relevant for 5 years after that. I see two ideas with Aetherpool. First of all, they could just make it something that resets at 1 every run. I played a game called Shiren. It's a mystery dungeon game. The way it works there is there's, let's say, these specialized dungeons, and then when you go in the specialized dungeon, your Aetherpool goes back to 1 every run, and then that's it. Like, so you can have a run where you get lucky, and then, I don't know, let's say you have 55 Aetherpool when you reach the mid-game, but you can also have a run where you're unlucky, and then you have like 25 Aetherpool reaching the mid-game. I think that would be a great change. First of all, it would introduce some RNG, some much-needed RNG to Deep Dungeon, because now you could fight the monster twice on the same job on 2 different runs, but then it's a much different experience. Just one time you have like very high armor, the other time you don't have very high armor. You could have very high weapon, skip a mechanic. Then another one, you could have very low weapon, not skip a mechanic. It would be like, honestly, this change alone might bump PT to like a 4. Like, this would be absolutely huge, a huge change, right? And it would make so much sense. I honestly don't understand why it's not like that. I don't understand, especially because the Aetherpool system, after having played Shiren, to me feels like it's copy pasted from Shiren. So it's crazy to me that it's so similar, but then they haven't done this one thing, right? Where we just reset that 1 every run. So another thing that I would like less, but it would be an option, is they could just make Aetherpool a scalable difficulty picker. So for example, when you're about to go in, it could just ask you which Aetherpool you want to start at. And then if you say 99, that's your like easy mode, right? That's your easiest difficulty. And then if you say 50, well, it's like another set of difficulty, which maybe has higher rewards. Maybe it has a higher score, a multiplier. Maybe it has a different title. And then, you know, maybe the biggest challenge possible, you start at 1. And then if you start at 1, then you actually just get like a brand new title or something. But then I would not make this scale with silver chest. Like, this would, to me, this would just be, you decide your pulls at 20 and it's at 20 the whole run. That would be cool. However, I think this first solution would be a much better solution, but that would also be cool. Also, I mean, this could just, I mean, let's be real, I'm just trying to recycle Aetherpool into something. This could just be like its own mechanic, right? I would love this, but then if we're talking just Aetherpool, I would rather they did something interesting with it. So now, people always say, oh, but then how do you trade for the grips and the weapons? Okay, maybe controversial opinion. I've always thought that for every deep dungeon ever. But I think, in my opinion, you should just trade the weapon if you clear. Like, I don't really understand why Deep Dungeon is this thing where you can get the weapons without clearing. Maybe you need like one clear to unlock the ability to make the weapon. I'm not even sure. But the point remains that you can, like, if you need a clear, even if you need a clear, you can still just grind your weapons by farming like the mid game, right? That never really made sense to me, because to me it's like if you did an ultimate, and let's say an ultimate has 10 phase, and let's say every phase gave you one totem. Then it's like if you could just do the first phase of an ultimate over and over, and you could get 10 totems and then trade those for a weapon. I think that'd be lame. But then it's like that in Deep Dungeon. I don't really understand why it's not considered lame in Deep Dungeon. Like, and then you're gonna say, oh, but this is like, you know, it's meant to be casual content and whatnot. But then PT, look at PT. Like PT, they overall the whole thing made it much easier because they want people to clear it easily. So then, do we really need Aetherpool? Like, if we're just looking at PT, do we really need Aetherpool in that case? Because it's already kind of easy to clear, right? You can even do it as a match party. So yeah, I don't know. Aetherpool, really not a fan. Probably my single biggest complaint about Deep Dungeon at the moment, if I had to look at everything. So yes, I'm hoping people have harsh things to say about Aetherpool. I would be very interested to know what people that have good things to say about Aetherpool have to say too, just because I would like to see their point of view more. We get more questions for solo people. What did I think of the aesthetics? I think this is overall my favorite looking Deep Dungeon. So I think in PT the endgame looks bad. Endgame being 81 to 100. I know people have said it looks good. To me it looks kind of bad. But I think 2180 is extremely solid, especially the 4180 stretch, which is like a really large amount of the Deep Dungeon. And then, you know, if I compare to other Deep Dungeons, like, for example, PUTD has got this badass endgame, but then nothing else before that. Heaven on High is just kind of like okay overall, with an endgame being okay. Yo has like a really cool endgame, okay caverns, and then just like bad early game. So I think despite the endgame being lackluster, which is, to be fair, pretty bad, like, you know, it's tanking a lot of points from PT, but I think despite that, it's probably my favorite looking Deep Dungeon overall. What did I think of the votive mechanic? I liked it with an asterisk. How often did I use the votives? Every time. So votives, the way I felt about them, I think was a great idea, but there were a few issues with them. First of all, is the downsides were just not really real downsides. I mean, I think if I'm not wrong, there's 3, right? There's like gloom. Your next floor is guaranteed to have gloom. There's one where you have more traps on the next floor, which I believe it means that every room has at least one trap. And then the last downside is the minimap being invisible. But all these downsides are whatever, because like the more trap one, it's like, does that really matter? Because you're already playing as if you're gonna hit a trap every room, and it doesn't look like wall traps are very common in PT. Like, I've never had this one and then felt like it negatively impacted me. The one that gives you a blind map is cool. I don't think it's a very big downside, but like, I'll be real, I've done some crazy challenge runs where like I hide my whole UI, right? So I'm like used to it. But even if it was bad, you can remove it with sight and maze, which is like a lot of ways to remove it, right? And then it's not like you're gonna be using the sight for anything else anyway. So it's a bit like unfortunate there. And then the last one, gloom, which is like the worst one, but then is it really that bad if you know the gloom's coming? Like, I feel like if you know the gloom's coming, you have so many ways to deal with it. And it's not like PT is really draining your Pomanders that much and your resources in general, right? So again, I think the downsides were whatever, which kind of leads into this, how often is use a votive every time. Like, it says full gamba, but like, I'm not really gambling. I know it's either gonna benefit me or basically mean nothing. So of course I'm clicking every votive. The votives are like, they have good effects. They have great effects even. But like, again, if you're just trying to do a regular clear, the effects you don't really need the crazy effects to clear. So like, there wasn't really a decision about, am I gonna click the votive? The decision was more like, do I really want to go into a room and find the votive? Because in my opinion, if I risk fighting 6 monsters, it's riskier than if I just leave the floor right away, right? So, you know, in general, Undercooked, great idea, great concept, just Undercooked. Reminds me of the Dread Beast in Neo, honestly. Also, last thing, I'm not guaranteed sure about this because, you know, they explain nothing about score, so all that we know is reverse engineered, but they don't look like they have an effect on score, which is also a great missed opportunity. I feel like they could have had some scoring impact. But I don't know, like just the act of using it could have given you score, though that's kind of boring, but like the effects themselves could have had like an impact on score, I'm not sure, but yeah, I mean, in general, I think good idea, just Undercooked. What do I think of the Haste Pomander? I thought it was great. So like, it's interesting, because Haste, it's like pretty weak, honestly, but I got really excited when I realized what Haste does, and I still like Haste. I think it's nice that we have like a third buffing Pomander. Because what I like about buffing Pomanders is you can use them, you know, before a floor. You can, like, plan to use it for a floor. You can plan to use it for a boss. You can, like, use it to kill a mimic before you get popped. Like, there's a lot of use for a buffing Pomander. And out of all the buffs, I think GCD speed is actually the most interesting one. Because it slightly changes your, let's say, your timing on everything. I like it. I really like it. Like, if you ask me... If you'd ask me, would I lose Frailty and gain that Pomander in Heaven on High, despite that Pomander being weaker than Frailty, I would probably say yes. I just like it a lot. What I think of the Devotion Pomander, I think it was great. So the way I feel about Devotion, if you don't know what Devotion does, it basically guarantees a votive on the next floor. So then what that does is it means that in 2 floors you get a benefit. So let's say I'm on 71. If I use a Devotion on 71, that means I'm getting a votive on 72, which means that if I total that votive on 72, I get something on 73. Now, something is very unclear about this Pomander. It doesn't say it on the tooltip, but if you use a Devotion, it always leads into a transformation, which basically is a floor wipe. So it's basically like if you've done POTD, this is like a rage in 2 floor kind of Pomander, with the catch that you have to be able to reach the votive on the next floor. I think it honestly was a great Pomander. I really liked it. I liked it way more when I learned of the transformation thing, though. Before that, it seemed very underwhelming, but once I learned that it was actually going to guarantee a transformation, I started liking that Pomander quite a lot. One little complaint, though, I can't believe the game lets you waste it, and it even has the guts to tell you in the chat, like, it has a specific message that says, like, the Devotion has no effect, but then it still wastes your Pomander, which I thought was evil. So, for example, if I'm on 78 and I use a Devotion, you would think that it would spawn a votive on 79, but then it wastes your Pomander, and then it tells you in the chat that you wasted it, which is kind of like, why, you know, like, at this point, just give it back to me. Like, if you're gonna take the time to tell me I wasted it, you could give it back to me. And I thought it was weird. Outside of that complaint, though, and the tooltip being unclear, great Pomander. What do I think of the Purification Pomander? Okay, bad. I think this is gonna be a very popular opinion. So, Purification's bad. I think it's kind of like, you know, widely agreed on. So what Purification does, it's first of all, I'm talking in the solo. I think in the party, it does all these effects in AoE on everyone. But in solo, it basically, it removes everything you have on you that you could cure with Esuna normally. So let's say I have two debuffs on me. Let's say I have a Enervation Trap debuff, which you cannot Esuna. I have a Poison on me, which you can Esuna. Well, if I use a Purification, it's going to remove the poison. Then it's gonna, but it's not going to remove the Enervation. Then it's going to give me an 8-minute shield, which makes it so that the next time I get a Esuna-able debuff, it will prevent it. In a vacuum, pretty cool Pomander. In fact, when I saw that Pomander the first time in my blind run, I thought it was great. Like I thought it implied that, wow, we're going to get so many bad debuffs. But then it turned out we don't really get many bad debuffs. Like, there's still only a few things that are, like, annoying. And then it's like, oh, I have Purification for it, but there's not really much that's bad. I saw some bad debuffs, but all of them you get from getting hit by Telegrass. But then here's the catch. You don't know especially when you reach 60 plus, everything tends to one-shot you. So like, how would you know what debuffs you and what kills you, right? So then, so like, I don't really understand the design choice of the purification. Like, did they mean for you to have the shield on you at all time? And then if you get hit by a telegraph, it's basically Gamba if you die or don't die, right? So then if it's like a bad debuff, you survive. Let's say you get hit by a petrification, you survive. But then if it was like something that just does damage, you die anyway. Like, I don't really understand the design philosophy behind that. This could have been a great Pomander if there were threatening debuffs put on you like constantly. Because first of all, if that were the case, healers would have been so much better in there than what they are right now. I think healers are the worst by far in PT. But if there were like threatening debuffs getting put on you like left and right, it would have been great. Unfortunately, there's not really anything like that. In fact, the most threatening debuffs I can think of, such as the Succubus Pyretic effect, don't even work with Purification. So it's kind of worthless. Like, you're gonna say it has niche uses, for example, stepping on the silence trap, but like, think of it that way. If that Pomander wasn't there, that means the pool of Pomander would be less diluted. You probably overall get buffed by this Pomander not existing because you get more other things. I think it's actively nerfing you overall. In fact, this Pomander, and something I realized is I wonder if they forgot about consumables, because like this Pomander is basically just doing consumable stuff, right? But then it's in the form of a Pomander. Like, I wonder why they just didn't make that Pomander into a super item that, like, when you use it, well, now it removes everything on you, right? And it puts a shield on you, but then maybe you can only use that item every 20 minutes. Like, I don't know. To me, that's not even like a bad idea. It's just like, why is it Pomander? And yes, it would have been really sick if this actually was built around. Like, a bit like, you know, you need Serenity in POTD. I kind of wish it was like that. Now, I know people don't really like the you need Serenity and Steel thing from POTD, but like, they could have had, like, I don't know. They could have had like a monster that say that in the end game, it's a monster that when it gets to 20% HP or less, it will put a doom effect on everyone that lasts, let's say, 10 seconds. And then this effect, you can remove it with the Pomander, or you can kill the monster, and then if you kill the monster, then it gets wiped off everyone, right? And then let's say give that monster, like, some kind of enrage phase, where whenever he reaches 20%, he only starts doing a dash move, and then he just keeps dashing, right? Until he's dead. So then you got this monster that has a threatening debuff, and then you can remove it with Purification, or you can chase it down and kill it, or you can CC it, maybe, you know, while it's casting. Like, there's... I can't even... Like, there's so many ways they could have made this useful. I would be, like... If I could ask them one question, if I could sit, like, the designer of PT in front of me and ask him any question, I would ask him, like, 100%, what was the design decision with Purification? Like, what was the intended use case for it? I have no idea. So, my thoughts on the Juniper instance... So, I guess there's... Well, I don't guess. There's three. There's the Maze, the Poison, and the Bard. I think Maze is actually the most fun one, surprisingly. Maze, it's the one that does, like, a bunch of things, right? It's like a Sight, a Key Open, a Serenity, and then it summons a minion that CCs monsters. I think she's fun to optimize around. I don't think she's that fun in a regular clear. But even then, I think it can be fun to open the key, but then you actually, like, don't have any monster killed, because then there's actually kind of like an argument to just trying to, you know, squeeze past the monsters, which is not something you really ever did in EO. But in PT, there's an argument for it. You could squeeze past the monsters if you want to save a little bit of time. I don't know if it's really necessary, but it's an option. So Maze, in my opinion, most fun one. Poison Berry, which is basically the F99 match site, is way too strong. I wish this was not there and it was something else entirely. Because, like, even though Maze is fun, you wouldn't really ever have Maze over Poison, right? Like, there isn't a situation where you'd be like, oh, I really would like Maze. Like, maybe for scoring specifically, early game, or like you want to find luring traps, then yeah, you want a Maze, but every other situation you want to get Poison. I think it's kind of lazy that they just copied the match site. The only thing that's a bit interesting about the Poison Berry is that the invuln is like the same, but the animation is very long. So then you can, like, there's like a very short period between the monsters dying and you losing your invuln, which can lead into funny situations like the monsters exploding on you. But it's too strong. I would have much rather have had no Poison Berry and something else instead. Bart, okay, Bart is... I think Bart, they tried too hard to make a bossing Pomander because it's too good for bosses. My initial thought was, I thought they would make it so that Maze was the high damage Pomander, which also CC'd, and then I thought Bart was going to be this double HP defensive Pomander, but then they made both Maze and Bart heal you, but then they made Bart the high damage one, but it also doubles your HP. So it leads into that situation where you want to use Bart on the boss every single time, right? There's not really... The only reason you wouldn't use a Bart on the boss and you would use a Maze is because you don't have a Bart. Like, it's literally just like a priority system. So I think it's a shame. I think it would have been more interesting if Bart was like defensive as hell and then Maze was offensive as hell. So then if you got to a boss, you were like, okay, do I use a Bart to make it safer or do I use a Maze to make it faster? Or maybe they could have had just like, maybe not Maze, like they could have maybe just had Poison Berry being like a third one that is high damage. Well, I don't know, like call it Root something. And then this one is the high damage one, right? Like this one, I don't know, cuts your HP by 50%, but then it doubles your damage while it's out, and then she like puts a dot to you or something. Like, I don't know. That would have been cool. But Bart is, in my opinion, it's too one-dimensional. It's not even a decision which you use on the boss. You just want to have on the boss. Another complaint about the incense rate is way too high, 81 to 100. Like, Jesus Christ. I'm not even kidding. You can only get 2 outcomes out of the silvers in the end game. Either it explodes or you get an incense. And I think the incense rate is easily 80%, if not more. Like, it's crazy. It's absolutely insane. It's way too high, which wouldn't be a problem if it was really hard, but it's not really hard in the end game. I did a few checkpoint runs starting from 71. I even did one on Scholar, and as soon as you reach 81, it is like, it's a joke. Like, I'm sure you can get a run that gets nothing. That happens. That happened in EO too sometimes. Sometimes you get an 81-100 with no clones. But it's not gonna be your, like, expected experience. Most of the time, you're just gonna get a bunch of them, right? Overall, there's too strong for PT. Except Poison Berry. Like, I think they're good ideas. But they're, like, too strong for PT. Like, the difficulty of PT is too easy to really, like, juice them up. I was able to juice them up in scoring runs, but, like, in a regular clear, man. Like, you could do so much with the Maze, but you're never gonna do that much with the Maze. And, like, the Bart gets crazy. We pose with the Bart, and it's dot, but then you're just gonna use on the boss, right? But I don't know. Like, good idea, except Poison Berry. Good idea, but slightly, like, undercooked. Not really fun, because you don't really choose which ones you can use. They just have, like, best situations to use them in. And they're in content that's, like, a bit too easy. Overall, I like them more than Match Sites. If we compare them to Heaven on High, I like them more than Match Site. Yes, there's a Match Site, but at least there's other things. Do I like them more than the clones in Yo? I actually don't, dude. I don't like them more than the clones. I think the clones in Yo, they were clunky as hell, but like they're... And Onion Knight was really strong, but there were still uses for all of them. Like, I still... Like, there's times where I really wanted Dodra, and Dodra was the damage guy, but like not as good as Onion Knight. And then there were times I wanted Yune, and Yune was the... She was the healing girl, right? And then you didn't use her for damage. But sometimes you did, because you had nothing better. But then sometimes you wanted the tankiness instead. So I still like the clones more, but I like this more than Match Site. Did I utilize checkpoints to help me progress? I did. Would I like to see similar checkpoints in other deep dungeons? Yes. So I'm actually like a really big fan of checkpoints. I know there's people that don't like it because it makes it easier to practice. To me, it's never really been an issue. I would love to see them in all the other deep dungeons. Checkpoints are great to practice, obviously. They're also great for content creation, so I'm definitely biased there. But like, it's great that if I want to check like a monster for a guide, I can just go there. I wish checkpoints were even more. I wish they were on every set. I really wish I could start on every set, even the last set on a checkpoint. First of all, just so I could check the monsters easily, but also just it'd be nice to take screenshots if I could just start on every set and take screenshots. For example, I made my guides yesterday and then I was trying to take screenshots of everything and it was very convenient. But then as soon as I want to take a screenshot of the last 2 sets, I realized like, oh crap, I can't actually go there. I'd have to actually climb again. Last wish I had for checkpoints is I wish it starts you with all your palms capped. I don't really see why not. I mean, it's already... You're already not really... Like, you know, you're already doing it in a non, let's say, legit way because you're using a checkpoint. So I don't really see why it couldn't touch you with all your palms. Well, I know why. It's because the intuition badge, you know, and whatnot. But yeah, either way. I mean, I guess they would have to rebalance around it. This is more of a selfish request, I guess. It's more of a selfish request. Either way, I would love to get checkpoints in all the deep dungeons. Especially POTD, it would be huge. Did I practice 99 with the new duty? Yes, I did. So what I think is a floor 99 boss duty addition, and by this I assume he means specifically the fact that you can practice it. I will not talk about Quantum there. I don't think he means Quantum. I mean, he means specifically the practice mode. So I think, honestly, I really dislike it. Which is funny, because I just said I love the checkpoints, but I specifically really dislike this. Biggest point to me is, like, I feel like the fact that they even thought this boss needed a checkpoint, it's... To me, that indicates this should not be a deep dungeon boss. Like, this is the penultimate floor 99 boss. The very last thing between you and your clear. And then they thought the mechanics would be so confusing that you need a practice mode. Like, you kind of see what I mean by this? It's like... I don't know. Like, it's... Surely I'm a bit biased because my first run was a blind run. And I've never done a deep dungeon blind before. So this was my first time doing it blind. But... I felt extremely cheated whenever I reached that boss the first time. And then I died on the very first mechanic. Because apparently you're supposed to kite the balls. Then I raised. Then I died again on the same mechanic. Because apparently this time it was chain balls. Which apparently you can't move during. But then it only tells you that once they hit you, right? And then I died right after that once more. Because it was the circle of telegraphs. And then you're supposed to run out of them, right? And then the first thing I did after this is I went to the practice mode, practiced the boss, cleared it, and then no surprise, next time I reached in the real run, I cleared it. But I feel like it's weird because I feel like every other boss in this deep dungeon was kind of like, yes, you could screw it up, but it felt clear what you had to do for most of them. Like, I'm taking the floor 80 boss, the big curl. Like, whenever he puts the debuffs on you that are gonna kill you, well, he does it. And he does it, and then he waits like 10 seconds, and then he does it, the mechanic. So, but then you have time to read the debuff. That's how I solved that boss the first time. I got a debuff, I read it, and then I was like, okay, I probably have to do this, and I did it, and it was fine. But then, I don't know why, floor 99, she opens up with that crazy double sword move, which, to be fair, I think you could guess what the sword thing does if you look at her. It didn't look, like, impossible to guess. I just didn't realize in the moment. But, like, bro, the floating balls... Like, why doesn't it, at the very least, put, like, a marker that tells you move? Or, like, why doesn't it put a debuff on you? Like, could have put a 10-second debuff on you that sent something like, you know, cursed balls of fire are tracking your position. And then if I read that, I would have been like, oh, I have to move. I don't know. It's like they gave up on 99. They were like, just shove all the mechanics in there. Players are gonna figure it out. Just put, like, a practice mode, you know. They'll just practice them. I felt very cheated of the floor 99 boss experience. So, second point of issue with this practice mode is, first of all, it doesn't cap your Aetherpool. That was a big issue for me, because I dropped to this boss with, I don't know, 60 or 70 Aetherpool the first time on my Picto. So then when I went to practice it, it really sucked when I'm on Votives. I could barely survive anything, could not tank a single mechanic. Like and I had to chuck potions non-stop. And at this point, I still did not have like a huge stock of potions, so it was miserable. So now I switched to Paladin to practice the fight, but my Paladin was with no damage. And I had no way to know if the boss did anything special when it's low. So I had to give up on that. Actually start a run from 1 again. Go all the way to 90. Then I could practice the boss with 99 Aetherpool. So I don't know why it just doesn't cap your Aetherpool from the get-go. Second issue I have with the practice mode is it gives you no palms. Which, like, you know, in a vacuum, it sounds like it's no big deal. Just practice the boss with nothing. But then it brings me to my third point. Bard is extremely overpowered on that boss. She, like, dots both, and she gets both very low. But then she does it in a weird way because she doesn't care about the elemental switch mechanic. So then it's like, if you do that fight with Bard, it's different than if you do it without Bard. It's actually pretty different. So it was weird. Like, I wish they gave you at the very least 1 bar to practice this fight. And so she also has this whole like lock-in mechanic where she like locks onto a target and she never switches. So yeah, you have you yourself to switch on the other guy to match the damage. Like it was weird. I wish they just let you start with every pump. And then I guess my last point is I just feel this boss too complicated. I'm not really a fan. At this point, I've got it down, but I still feel like it's too complicated. I don't really like this boss. To me, it felt like I was doing a, I don't know, an extreme, maybe? Like, not a fan. Not a fan of this boss and the practice mode. Would I have liked a difficult post-deep dungeon fight like Quantum, except as an exclusive solo challenge? I actually would not have liked that. I like deep dungeon. So I like deep dungeon as in the deep dungeon experience. So for me, that's when I queue in from floor 1 until I die or clear at floor 100. Like nothing else matters to me. So for me, even if I got a badass Buzzja duel from the deep dungeon, I don't really give a shit, dude. Like I want to get something cool inside. Like to me, it's worthless. Like I mean, it should be very telling. We're about at the end of this survey, right? It should be very telling to you that this is the only question that is related to Quantum. And this was made by someone that's like a deep dungeon player, right? Like, this should be very telling to you that there's a single question about Quantum, and it's this one, and it doesn't even let you write anything about it. Like, people that do deep dungeon, they don't consider Quantum part of the deep dungeon. I know it was advertised as such, and I know the players think of it like that. There's like a gap, there's like a chasm there between the deep dungeon players and the people that are checking it out for the first time. Because I feel like deep dungeon players, they don't really see the Quantum as like an extension of like the deep dungeon, but people that they are checking it out, they do. So all this to say, no, I would not have liked a fight like Quantum, even if it was solo. I mean, don't get me wrong, I would have rather had a Quantum that I can solo than one that I can solo, but like, I would rather have neither of them. I would rather that effort was put in deep dungeon. What do I think of the soul title, The Enlightened? It's my least favorite. I'd say the EO one is also pretty lame. I don't really like the EO one. I know it's a reference to King Arthur or something, but I don't really like the EO one either. But this is for sure my least favorite one. To me, this sounds like something you get from doing a quest in the MSU, you know? So, final thoughts that were not specifically asked. So, I gotta rant about Quantum a little bit. You'll have to forgive me. So, I have so many issues with Quantum. I have not actually prod Quantum yet. I'm supposed to do that tomorrow. You know, at first I was like, I'm gonna make this video after I've prod Quantum, but I changed my mind. I want to do it before I prod Quantum because I don't care if I like Quantum. I still don't like the idea of it. Like, to me, this, and to many people, especially deep dungeon people, this is a raid fight tactical at the end. The raid has nothing to do with deep dungeon except it's reusing the assets inside. It's reusing like the Aetherpool. I don't know why, but it's reusing the Aetherpool. I believe someone said you can use a Quantum Potion inside, and then it's basically reusing the boss assets. Now, what really pisses me off about this fight, and it really pisses me off, it's this fight, they had this whole offering system where you can scale the difficulty. That's great. That's a great idea, right? Like, being able to change the difficulty of a fight, you can make it easier, harder. That's a great idea. But you know where that feature would be great? You know that one piece of content that's, you know, that you're like incentivized to run over and over? You know that piece of content has multiple floors? Where some people think it's too easy, some people think it's too hard. You know that one piece of content called Deep Dungeon? Which people have been requested forever for you to be able to change the difficulty of it? Well, Why do you unlock the quantum fight, which you can modify the difficulty with by doing the deep dungeon, which is the thing people have wanted to be able to modify the difficulty of for that long, right? Like that, to me, I'm sorry, to me that's a slap in the face. Like, like, I'm actually insulted. I'm insulted that this even happened. Like this, I could not have even predicted something like that before this came out. Like, and it sucks, man, because I don't want to, like, I'm sure Quantum's great. I'm sure it's great. I'm sure it's great, and I'm sure the offering's great, but like, dude, why can't I get it in the deep dungeon? Like, I don't know. Like, to me, it makes so much more sense that would have it in deep dungeon, and then they would, like, put it in other things. You know? Or like in both at the same time, I don't know. Or like Quantum is just like a different patch altogether. It has like its own things, but then Deep Dungeon has this offering system. Like it's, the possibilities are endless. And yes, I know people are gonna say, oh, but they're testing it out in Quantum, and then maybe they'll add it in Deep Dungeon in the future. But then that still pisses me off, because why did they not test it in the Deep Dungeon, bro? Like, Quantum is not Deep Dungeon. Get me? Like, it's not Deep Dungeon. Like, there's no reason why they couldn't have tested in Deep Dungeon. I mean, they had this whole thing about trying to make, like, PT, you know, fresh, accessible. They're gonna try new things. But then their new thing is adding a raid fight that's out of the Deep Dungeon, and then putting the difficulty scaling thing in that. I'm lost. Like, that's... I will never shut up about it. Okay, so Quantum Rant is done. We had to get through this. I was just waiting for a question for it, but there was no question. I had to plug that in at the end. So many trading items. Like, bro, holy shit. I don't even know. This reminds me of back when I did my raid tier. I did the last raid tier, the one with Sugar Riot. I had to ask my group, how the fuck do I trade these items? I had all these items in my bag. I had no idea what to do with them. I'm like, it's, oh yeah, you gotta trade this at that guy. Okay, you gotta trade this at this guy. Okay, but then if you trade this, you need like this other thing plus this thing, and then you trade it. It's so confusing, bro. And Deep Dungeon was not that bad, but now it's like, no, I feel like it's at this point. I have these diamonds that trade for things. I have like these Potsherds that trade for things. I have these oils that trade for things. I could not tell you where you get each one. I think I got the diamonds from the bags. I don't know how I get the oils. Clearing, maybe? Then I get the Potsherds from the bronze. But the only reason I know this because like it's from the other deep dungeons. Then I get the clear item. And they all trade for different things. Like, holy crap, bro. Could we not just have like a word where I just clear and I trade what I want for this item? Like, why do we need all these freaking steps? That's not even including the offerings. But you can trade those at least. So at least I can get rid of them. But like, bro, all the other shit, I'm like, I don't understand why we can't just have like one item that I trade for what I want, right? My last complaint. Please show Scoring a Bone, please. I beg you. Like, there's literally official leaderboards. There's never been a competition, an acknowledgement, like a seasonal thing. There's never been like scoring modifiers. There's no scoring updates. It's crazy, bro. There's even like an official leaderboard for it. Like, no, I played this game called Barony sometimes, a roguelike. It has a leaderboard and everything. And it's very simple. They have an automated system where every week you have a new seed. And like everyone that plays that week on that seed, they have like the same, let's say, RNG. So then they just compare their score with each other. Like that'd be like such a small thing, right? But that'd be great. They could have like events, like they could have, I don't know, like they could have like a seasonal thing where for a few months speedruns give you more points rather than kills. They could have it so like mates give you way more points. They could get it so, I don't know, like that's not even just for scoring. They could have so many seasonal things for Deep Dungeon. Like they could have a season where you, I don't know, like monsters do 50% more damage, and then the top 10 contenders for that period get like a bit like the Ishgard ranking, right? They get a title. I don't know, like there's so much, man, they could do with the leaderboards. In general, I don't know why I don't honestly at this point I don't really know why they copied them over. I know why they copied them over. It's because they're there. Like they're already there, so they just copy them over every time. But I feel like they could do so much more with the leaderboards. Okay, add to add this one last thing. Jesus Christ, the achievements. We're gonna talk about the achievements. You know, if I ever make a video that's like 14 related, but it's not about Deep Dungeon, it's gonna be about achievements, bro. Because I can't believe it. When I logged in after the patch, they actually had a 30,000 Horde achievement. That's insane. Like, insanity, bro. First of all, I can't believe someone sat down and did that with a straight face. I can't believe someone had a 30,000 achievement with a straight face. Second of all, like, especially in PT, where they made it accessible, every job can solo easily. How on earth do we not have a clear every job in solo title? How is there not a different title for clearing every job in solo? Like how is that not something that gets put in, but then you get a 30,000 Horde achievement? Like, it's funny. I was saying as a joke, whenever PT was not out yet, I kept saying as a joke, we're gonna get a 30,000 achievement Horde. I didn't really believe it, dude. It was a joke. I didn't believe it. I can't believe it. We have one, dude. I'm speechless. It's amazing. I thought we were gonna get no new achievement, which I would have still complained about. Don't get me wrong, but then it became funny. Like, it's weird. Now, I'll be real. I'm a bit biased about the achievement thing because I wish there was an achievement for clear on every job, because then I would be very incentivized to make a guide for every job, right? But like, just like, listen, I don't line up my pocket with the profit score in X-Mates, but I can't imagine like it's a big effort to add an achievement to clear solo, and I can't imagine how many people it would bring into the content. Like, and let's not even talk about PT. Let's talk about Heaven on High. Imagine if tomorrow, there's a patch tomorrow. Imagine if tomorrow they added the new achievements in Heaven on High. Very simple. Every achievement is like clear on solo on this job, right? And for every job, there's now an achievement like that. Let's say they all have a title, a generic title. I don't know, lone, like one of them is called Lone Monk, and one of them is called Lone Machinist, and then Lone Summoner. So there's a new achievement for every single job like that. Now, they already track if you clear, because when you score, it gives you like a score, right? A new high score. They already track when you clear. So they just have to have some kind of flag that tells like, okay, this guy cleared on this job. Bam, give him the title. Bang. Just like that, you get 21 new titles. And then you just need a penultimate title that's like clear on every job, right? And then you get a crazy freaking sounding title, you know, like the ultimate hero. I don't know. So I don't think that's a lot of effort. Can you imagine how many people would come do Deep Dungeon if they just did that? I can't even imagine it. How many people come do Deep Dungeon? In fact, you might even be watching this video right now. How many people come do Deep Dungeon just for the title? Can you imagine if these people, they could do it on the job they love because they want a specific title, and then they could even push it further and do it on every job if they want the ultimate one, right? Like, that'd be crazy. That'd be crazy. That's like a change I really wish we had. At the very least, bro, please don't put a 40,000 achievement Horde in the next one. I beg you, please. Like, no more. And there we go. That was the Pilgrim's Traverse survey. As a reminder, it's in the description. I really hope you already answered it before watching my video, just so I don't bias your answers. By the way, that were my thoughts and opinions about PT. I think I went over all I really wanted to talk about. And I'll see you guys on the next video. Have a good one.